But back to the topic at hand. When we talk about mass incarceration, what do we really mean? Is it a numerical phenomenon, a racial one, or something else?
I think when we talk about mass incarceration, we're talking about the phenomenon of increased incarceration in the post civil rights era that started basically with that started with a combination of factors: deindustrialization, the war on drugs, uh, uh, the Great Migration, the last wave of the Great Migration of blacks from the South to the North, and the policies of the Nixon administration, or actually even starting before Nixon, going back to LBJ, to increase mass incarceration as a result of the crime increase rates that were going on, consequently resulting from that great migration and the lack of presence of jobs in those inner city areas where blacks were moving into.
Toussaint? Sorry, that was my bad.
That's okay. Your boy Pusha T is back. He got a new album, fresh new Coke bars for you and your enjoyment. He has his non-twin brother with him.
Mm-hmm.
It's looking good so far. And for all the years he's been rhyming about Coke, it seems like it's not having an effect. It's good to see the rates go down. The YNs are listening to Pusha T and they're like, you know what? I'm not gonna try to live those bars.
Well, I mean, look, while these rates are going down, rappers are killing each other at a rapid rate.
That's true. They're like, let's shift the paradigm a little
Yeah,
bit.
like let's it's almost like does that feel to you from a cultural standpoint? Does it feel to you guys like this is a generation that's grown up on multiple generations of not just hip hop music, but hip hop movies and hip hop television and hip
Mhm.
hop everything? So this is just their idea of what hip hop is supposed to be.
Oh, don't forget, we're now in the age of Coke rap. We're in an era of Coke TV. From Empire
Snowfall. Yeah.
to the BMF,
Narcos.
Gorilla. What is that? Gorilla Mafia Family, whatever it is.
The BGF, yeah.
The BGF. All of that stuff. Get get what's the one that's about the guy from Harlem.
Which guy from Harlem? There's a lot of you people.
Mm,
No, the major drug kingpin from Harlem.
Oh, the
the
one that
movie?
Denzel played?
Hmm.
Not him.
The other one, Nicky Barnes?
Nicky, the mentor of Frank White,
Oh,
Bumpy Knuckles?
Bumpy Johnson.
Bumpy
Bumpy
Johnson.
Johnson. There we go.
Bumpy
Bumpy Knuckles
Johnson.
is a rapper. Sorry.
Of
Bumpy
course he
Knuckles.
is.
That's
Bumpy
Freddie
Johnson.
Fox.
Yeah. So there's this glorification
Mhm.
of the cocaine narcotics industry, heroin, cocaine, that is proliferating in black cultural media spaces, that is commensurate with the rise of hip hop, that is flushed all through black cultural production now.
This is a good question from uh Indingu Kamau. Is this decline primarily happening for black men, or is it a comprehensive decline for all demographics? All demographics.
Hmm.
We are looking at possibly having by the end of the decade less than 1 million people in prison. So it's saying a lot. Do you guys think mass incarceration was an intentional racial project or the result of a confluence of policy decisions with racially desperate outcomes?
I think that mass incarceration was particularly rooted in political economy of the urban area and was driven by a confluence of class, race, and capitalism
Mhm.
that had highly racialized results because class and capitalism in America is racialized. Now there is, of course, I'm sure you've heard the story from the Nixon administration that came out of Nixon's administration, where he says that Nixon had two enemies. He had the young people and he had the blacks, and he realized he had to get rid of both of them. So he basically started his policies of mass incarceration to do just that. But in reality, ultimately speaking, though, mass incarceration starts well before the Nixon administration. There's a really good piece that came out in Catalyst, like that was in, I think it came out about 2 or 3 years ago, maybe 3 years ago. It was written by a guy named Adnan Usami. The
I know who
economic
you're talking about.
origins of, you heard of him?
Usmani.
Adnan Usmani, yes. The economic origins of mass incarceration. That's a really good piece. I tried to get it for this show, but it's behind a firewall. And it talks about how the origins of mass incarceration, contrary to the racialized narrative that's popular in the new Jim Crow, stems highly from the economic consequences of deindustrialization and mass incarceration that faces black populations when they're moving to the north in the second and the last wave of migration, which is really like the 60s. And as a result of that, because there's no work and crime is already starting in those areas, there's a massive crime wave in these communities that starts a wave of mass incarceration. This is before Nixon. So again, it demonstrates that the political economy of inability to find work is a driver of a large amount of these policies.
Tucson, did you want to add anything?
Hmm. That's when you had like the vagrancy laws and they
Yeah.
were arresting dudes for jaywalking, putting them on chain gangs and stuff.
I mean, it's a very different time, right?
Yeah.
Very, very different time of what you could get locked up for. Um, how has the framing of mass incarceration changed over the last 2 decades from like more activist rhetoric to institutional acknowledgement? Do you think it's lost its bite at all?
I think that what happened is that it became so popular to become an anti-carceral activist
Mhm.
after the new Jim Crow that
Mhm.
everyone kind of jumped on that bandwagon, and it made it popular to the point where even Bush, not Bush, excuse me, Trump, I said Bush, Trump became known as an anti-carceral activist under the behest of Kanye West's ex-wife. What's her name?
Kim
Kim
Kardashian.
Kardashian.
Kim Kardashian.
Well, shout out to her for single handedly lowering the mass incarceration rates. She got them all free. That's great. But I agree. It definitely has been become popular. The answer to say, hey, there's just too many people locked up. We know that the United States had maybe still has the most persons behind bars of any country in the world. Um, I mean, I'd like to see the day when we're not number one in that category. Sounds like we're getting there though.
Of incarcerating our own people.
Of incarcerating our own people. But as you sort of implied in the questions and your opener,
Mhm.
um, people may be incarcerated by a different means now.
Yeah, I mean, I think civil detention, which never gets added into these numbers, has really heightened. And I think we talked about this Tuesday, maybe, or one of the days we've talked about it. I know we have that. That's kind of why you're seeing these massive roundups of migrants with a goal of 1 million a year. It's a pretty high number if you think about it, and that would dwarf any numbers that we had in a 1 year's time,
Mhm.
even at the height of mass incarceration.
Mhm. I think the ICE raids and immigration detention centers are also mass incarceration by a different name.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's an extension of the project.
I think there's a higher rate of private prison
Is
ownership.
Pascal still there?
Yes, he's still there.
Oh,
I think there's a higher rate of private prison ownership in the detention centers than they are in the regular prisons. Is that correct, Jason?
Yes. Yes, in the civil detention centers for migrants. Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's where private prison ownership is. That was kind of like the I wouldn't say the sleight of hand in the book, because Michelle Alexander does say that she's not going to talk about brown people and she's not going to talk about civil detention, because it is something very different.
Mhm.
But by leaving that out, it really did open up the door for most people to believe that private prisons were what was driving mass incarceration, and it was simply a race issue. And that's when you get things like these fake stories of a hip hop pivot from more Afrocentric and nationalist content to hood music,
Mhm.
which just isn't true. Like the whole the president of a private prison sat down with record label owners and said, "I need you to make more hip hop." Like that is not true whatsoever.
Oh, like the birth of gangster rap came
Yeah.
about.
Yeah. When you make this music, more people go to prison. I mean, your point you make a great point, Toussaint. You know, there's a new Clips record out. And it's
Mhm.
not like kids are buying kilos of cocaine to cook it.
Nope.